Spinelli Complex Upgrade Committee. I know Dave is on. Lori, I know Susan wasn't able to join. Ashley, Chad. So it's just Tony, I think, and Susan. And we have some other people. We know the meeting's open to the public, so other people are here. I guess my motivation for having the meeting is to hear from people and to try to figure out what our next steps, if any, for this year or next year or in the future, what the timeline would look like. And so I really wanted to hear from the committee members to see what people are thinking, where we want to go. One of the things that I know from the vote is I don't know very much. We know that the vote did not pass, but really I don't know, and like somebody can enlighten me. There's been a lot of people who've told me, let me tell you why the vote didn't work, but I don't know that there's any answers like 100% that people could guarantee. So I think that's kind of a spot where we're in, where we know it didn't pass, but the reasons why are, I think, lots of different options or possibilities there. So I guess first I would like to just kind of hear from the members of the committee. You don't have to hear me talk all the time. First, and just kind of see where you guys are at as a committee. We've been working for over a year on this. I found a document I'm going to share from January of 2020, so almost a 2-year-old document where we first kind of started the process, and just to get everybody kind of on the same page as to where we were and kind of where we want to go. So maybe Chad and or Ashley, who are, you guys are together at the library, maybe you can start, and then I'll throw it to the members of the committee at home. Like, where do we think, where would you like to go? Maybe Ashley, why don't you start first?
Chad's going to start first. Just
okay. All right.
I'm going to follow Chad.
Mike, like you, a lot of people did reach out. Overwhelmingly, I didn't hear anyone that they didn't say to me, this project doesn't need to happen. They might have, the disagreement might have been on the levels or to what extent of the project. The biggest two things I heard was the overall price tag. 3.5 million scared a lot of people. The second was questions about what type of product was being used, especially, the PFOA concerns and, plastics, whatever. So I think we need to address those concerns. Obviously, the voters spoke. We have to look at, that overall price tag. Can we whittle that down? Several people suggested to me about breaking out. I know we broke down the cost on that chart, but that contingency piece is a large chunk. And that contingency is only if we go over budget. What is the total cost for the project? And then what is the contingency piece? A lot of people ask, hey, what is that contingency number? I didn't have an answer for them. What is the cost of a turf field? I didn't have the answer for them. I had the, those are numbers I think we need to do a better job of educating people. And then the second piece was the overall hit. I know our lovely director of finance did a great job explaining about the annual budget hit being $320,000 for 10 to 12 years. On a $26 million budget, people talk about the budget going up. As a math teacher, quick math, that's less, look at the percentage of that on the overall budget. $320,000 over 26 million. So 3.5 million, I agree. That's a big price tag. What's in that price tag, I think, needs to be broken out. Can we whittle down some of the stuff in the project? Absolutely. Is there some things that we necessarily is maybe a wish list, something that we can maybe try to fundraise for? Those are some things as a committee we should look at and pare down. Can we guarantee the public, hey, we're not going to use, we could use that not use an artificial chrome rubber. Let's use a more natural product and guarantee, hey, this will be a natural product. Because some people said, hey, we need this project, but I'm uncomfortable with the chrome rubber. So can we guarantee that? Those are some things I think if we can answer some of those questions. Like I said, most people agreed that we need to upgrade this project. We kicked the can down the road for 10, 15, 20 years. If we had maintained it 20, did slow upgrades here and there, we wouldn't have this big chunk now. I look at it, my time on the select board, all the stuff that got postponed with the wastewater project, and that now they're paying for it now. There's been large tax increases now. So I think we have to find a way to do it right for our students, for safety and equity, and try to answer some of those questions. I don't have all those answers. But.
Great. So to summarize what I wrote down, Chad, from you, financial kind of look of things like the big dollar amount, and possibly obviously making some cuts to that overall cost, maybe decide what is a must and what is a need. But also you talked about breaking things out and really focusing on the cost for each kind of component, and maybe like the next proposal, whatever, again, this is what I'm taking from what you said, maybe should be more split out. Is that kind of what you were leading to?
Yeah, I know you can't legally put that in the voting, like you're voting for an overall bond. You can't, break the bond up. I think
it's transparency.
It is.
I think it's just, that's what I got too.
Yeah, so no, that's the word I was looking for. You're better with the English language than I am. I had several people ask me, like, well, what's this contingency? What's the overall project? Like, they wanted to know, hey, what's it going to cost to install the turf? What's it going to cost for the shed, all those little other, they wanted those costs. And I unfortunately didn't have all those answers. I was like, let me pull it up. Let me try to find it. And it wasn't easy to find. So I think the piece, and I don't think, what percentage did they use for an overall contingency? I
know it was inflated pretty good. I know we talked about that multiple times, that there was quite a cushion there because of the uncertainty of everything going on.
Right. And again, the wording was borrow up to the 3.5 million. If the project only costs 2.6, that's all we're borrowing. We're not borrowing the extra. And I think that, again, if we can express that piece, I think we can get that. So.
Good. Ashley, yep.
Yeah, I'm not going to repeat everything he said. It was nice because this was right around playoff time, so I happened to see a lot of people after the vote and everything. So I had, and a lot of phone calls. So again, I think the big thing for me that I just said was the transparency. So people were looking for more specific numbers, what was under this, like what exactly each line was detailing. So that was a big one for me. In terms of breaking it down, the general feedback that I got was, I think everyone's on board with the track. I think everyone agrees that that definitely needs the big upgrade. I think for the, the synthetic field, I think a lot of the concerns stemmed from that first point in time where, people were under the PFOA concern. And then when, we were looking at the crumb rubber infill instead of a more natural infill, like what was it, the pine? I can't remember what it's called, but it's the pine version. So I think, in getting that information out, I think that there wasn't a good enough job done there with, making it clear that, we're not going to go this crumb rubber. We did bring the scientists in who I think did a pretty good job of explaining, the PFOA worry and kind of how our new approach kind of avoided that. But I think the turf, again, I think a lot of people that I talked to were in favor for it after they had known that it was going to be a more natural, the pine infill. But I think once that information was out there, it was too late, right? So it was a big one. I think the building was another downfall. I think, the overall cost of that building kind of swayed people in the no direction. I know a lot of people ask me, and Fran even asked me earlier, why do we need to heat that? Like, why is it such a big price tag? And those are obviously things that we can look at and possibly reduce. Obviously, it doesn't have to be heated. The main cause, obviously, for the heat is the plumbing in there for the toilets to be used for the duration that the field is open and being utilized. But those are all things that I think that, this is what the job of the committee is. Okay, we got this feedback, and now we need to, move more towards what people want and what people can afford. So that's basically it. Obviously, I heard a lot of what Chad already talked about, but that's kind of what I received from community members, coaches, people in the school. So, does anyone else want to talk about it?
Sure.
Do we want to go? I want to go to the rest of the committee first, and then we'll open it up to others. But Dave, did you have any? I know you've been a part of the process for a while. Any thoughts or direction that you think the committee should head in?
I'm glad to see that Jackie is here because she spoke of someone who might be able to write a grant for us, and that might be something we could investigate. I think spelling out what everything costs, that's a great idea. However, like let's say the shed, you can't have people bid on it. So how do we know how much it costs? And someone mentioned fundraising. I don't know how you go about doing that, but maybe if someone wanted to contribute some money, they could have a urinal named after them or in their honor or something. But I don't know how you start the fundraising, but there might be people out there who would be interested.
Yeah, I think it's tricky because like with the bond, like, it would almost have to be, I think you'd fundraise like a certain, thing for, for the scoreboard or what, whatever it is, like to upgrade something. I don't know that the whole thing could be, fundraised, but I think there may be aspects of the project, like, oh, well, this will be how much this is, but if we want to do a digital scoreboard, then we can fundraise, like a low end, high end, or something like that. Dave, any? I know you get a good pulse of the community. Did you get a feel from like feedback and people talking if it was the overall costs, if it was the building, if it was the turf, it was the track? Do you have any read on any of that?
Most of the people that I talk with are in favor, but I don't have a wide group of folks. I stick to myself, go to Prospect, ski, and come home. But the people I talked to thought it was a great idea. But again, I don't talk to many people.
Okay. Lori, what about you? I know you're kind of out and about in the community. Do you have any thoughts on like next steps and kind of where you want to see the project head?
I would like to see it go ahead. The things that I'm getting that I heard throughout being the booster president and talking to people with booster is that, like someone else said, we need to get it out there saying like how much is going to what, because people want to know where the money is going, and they thought 3.5 was high. People also didn't like that the shack was going to be heated. They're like, well, why is that needed? So if we wanted to keep it heated, we need to give them the explanation of why it needs to be heated. And then, oh my God, there was something else I wanted to say. Oh, and then other people around the community are going, well, it was 6 million and all of a sudden you're putting 3.5. So who's siphoning money from where? And I'm like, okay, I've never seen in any of our committee meetings, it has never gone that high. So somewhere people said to other people and they were putting out that it's 6 million for this project. And I have no clue where they got that figure, but for certain people, and some of them are businesses in the area, you can't, there was no way I could get it through their head that was never a figure.
Gotcha. So a lot of it is the messaging, I think, is what like you're saying, the communication, piece, and getting the, like, I think we did lose the message. I think we lost it with the PFOAs. I think we lost it at times with the, as Ashley and Chad were saying with the crumb rubber, like the turf became this big, and then we lost it with that the turf was going to cost $3.5 million, dollars, and all it was a turf project, and no way you should play on a field, like that. So I think I agree with everybody. I just want to take just 30 seconds right now. Well, just a little. I'm going to. Hopefully, people can see this. This is kind of where we started. You know, back in the beginning, and people have said, oh well, how did we get to, you know, this, you know, these figures, and what did people on the committee, you guys have seen this, you know, this figure, this chart. This was done in January of 2020. So as I said, almost 2 years ago. And we had 4 grass options, those last 4 columns. And this was presented to the board. This was discussed. This was like part of our committee's kind of, you know, message to begin with, was decide, like, pick a direction. So people were saying, oh, like, we've never seen, you know, grass options and stuff. This was done in January, and we started kind of moving forward. As you can see in the chart, and one of the things that we had was essentially the one on the far right was just like, basically, we're just going to kind of grass the field, not spend very much money, but then work on drainage, then sand cap, then sand bait. They had all kinds of redos of the field, but all those that say natural turf are grass. And then we had one synthetic, you know, turf option. And they talked about all the other things that, you know, were needed: track resurfacing, you know, the parking, the scoreboards, all that kind of spelled out as a you know, a figure that's subtotal A, and then they showed subtotal B with the turf and like the, you know, kind of equipment that goes with it. And we saw, I think, as a committee right off the bat, that it's a little over $500,000 more for a turf than for this, like, you know, natural grass surface with drainage and sand base, but we're going to get 3 extra, like, you know, 2 extra seasons, get 3 seasons in, be able to kind of have the summer and the spring as well. And I think that was one of the, like, real kickers when you put it all together. And again, this was the estimated with the 20% contingency back prior to COVID hitting. It was only a difference of, you know, just over $700,000 from, like, you know, full on from one to the other. So we thought, to get the amount of use that you can get out of it, it just kind of made sense to go towards, like, a synthetic turf. And that was kind of our motivation, you know, pretty much, like, right from the beginning, was saying, hey, we want to be able to use this in the summer, in the spring, in the fall. Does anybody else, like, remember anything else from this, like, initial discussion, who was on the committee?
Yeah, Mike, I do, and again, looking at this, I know, again, pre-COVID numbers, I remember us making the comment, the cost per game or the cost per usage. Our usage from grass to turf almost doubles. So if we were to break out the cost per game, or, you know, whatever, you're only playing on the fall if it's grass. You know, you're not including the lacrosse or the summer camp type stuff. So when you broke it down by cost per game, and I can't remember if that was a committee thing or if that's something I did on my own, I apologize, but I remember it was almost a no-brainer that why we chose the turf, because the usage more than doubles when it's turf versus grass.
Right. Yes. And I think most of us on the committee felt that it would be, like, against our best judgment to offer, like, essentially a $2.1 million proposal to not get any extra use out of it, to put that much money in and to still just have it for 20 games. I mean, yes, you get the track and you get the look of things, but you're going to have to stay off, you know, the grass for the most part in the summer, at times in the fall, at least early on in the fall, you know, kind of for that, you know, rehabilitation piece. So I think even if you're going to go ahead with a grass surface, we were just very concerned that we're spending all this money asking the taxpayers to do it and not getting that bang for the buck, so to speak, that like kind of the extra usage that we're really looking for. So I just thought it was important. Anybody else on the committee, remember any other discussions that we had from this beginning point?
Mike,
Yeah.
all these things you're saying and that we're saying are very good and informative, but they don't get out there.
Yeah, I know.
We had the informational meeting, and it reminded me of Parents' Night. The parents that come are not the ones that you need to come. I don't know how we inform everybody. I mean, I think the things we're saying sell the project, but how do we get it out and have people make an educated and informed vote?
It's a good question. I think that was where like the message was lost, and what we, as you said, we had so many, meetings, and people were asking, there weren't that many people there, first of all. And then some of the questions were, I don't want to say misinformation, but just kind of confused, exactly as Lori was saying, a $6 million figure here or something like that. So it's tough. It's very difficult to figure out where the message, is going wrong, for us kind of moving forward. Anybody else on the committee with thoughts?
Can Pete and Jason have been raising their hand? Is there any way they can speak yet, or?
Oh yes. Sorry, I've got my share screen on, so I'm not even looking at the thing. But
I don't want them to forget.
yeah, good. Sorry. Yeah. We'll now open it up to. I think everybody on the committee's had a chance, so now we'll open it up to anybody else.
Pete's gonna go first.
Go, Pete.
Hi, Mike. Pete
Hey.
Spinelli.
Pete.
So obviously, I'm a great supporter of what's going on. We need a turf field. And I want to come to the meeting tonight because I haven't been involved, but, the big keys that you've said tonight, the message did not get out. The people that I spoke to, it's a $3.5 million, too much money. It's the classic, as you know, I've lived here all my life. My father was born and raised here. I went to Mount Anthony. Coach Frederickson was my coach. It's crazy to me how this community will not support these things. But I do understand it because it's just a lot of money. No one can afford a higher tax right now. So I understand that. To address the points that you're saying, I mean, the field needs to be, it needs to be diagnosed or broken down into, like Coach Fredericks has said, you need to break it down into what it actually costs. Because most of the people that I spoke to didn't understand at all what the costs were. They had no idea. They thought it was $3.5 million. They didn't understand any of it. And of course that means taxes. So, breaking out, I got a quote for a turf field with lights from the Clark Company, $1.3 million. That's the turf field, multi-use, lacrosse, soccer, football. I didn't talk to them about the track at the time, but basically that was their standard cost. And then they also talked about different financings for public projects versus private projects. So there are like programs that they could, if you consult them, they might be able to help out to defray the cost a little bit through these programs. And I didn't totally get into it with them because I didn't have the time. So that's one big point. The other point is the actual, need is obvious. I mean, it's like, you can get so many more games in, you can get so much more usage of the field. So that needs to be put out there. Dolmish and MSK, they just are too expensive. Maybe going to a different, contractor, get some prices, that kind of thing. Go ahead, Jason.
Mike, this is Jason Morrissey. How you doing tonight?
Hey, Jace. Good.
I followed this from afar. I'm going to echo a bit of what Pete said. There is no question in my mind The only criticism I would make really of the group so far is, are you sure you went far enough? And you guys are doing a great job communicating to yourselves, but it is not getting out there. You know, when I think back of having played on that field with you 35 years ago, that was a bad field then. To do anything short of a synthetic field in this climate, with the amount of use our high school athletes could certainly get on that field beyond soccer and football. You could have lacrosse, you could have field hockey, you could have more games at night. I mean, this really, the way you describe the project, it's not a school project, it's a community project. It's an amenity for the town. We're doing a lot in this town to create more amenities here. And part of what people look at when they are coming to a community, there are the amenities and the education system. This is a big part of it. You know, I could really go down into the weeds on a lot of things, but really, as I just looked at your numbers briefly, to put the product out there with a 20% contingency, without really shopping the numbers, going down what the Avenue Pete just said, and putting a 20% contingency on it, which is high, it's 2.8. It's not 3.5.
This was the pre-COVID.
That was okay.
So they reevaluated
things have
that.
changed. So, okay, so I.
Well, plus pre-COVID, the recycling of the turf too has changed so much too, and how much they can do that naturally, so those fees will go down too.
But, you know, whether or not, whatever type of infill you're talking about, personally, nobody wants a PFOA problem, but I think that argument was a bogeyman argument by some people who didn't know what they were talking about. Because these fields are being put in everywhere in the country.
Yeah.
They're easy to play on. I've been on them. I'd be happy to play on them with bad knees at age 50. They're good fields.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll get back. Go ahead. No,
I just wanted to add the communication part of it is, the Bennington Banner is an avenue in the town. So they didn't do a very good job in explaining. All the articles that I read did not explain what was going on. So getting a reporter to get out there and actually report what we're talking about right now and getting it out there for discussion is one avenue.
right, well, it goes beyond the high school athletes. I mean, think about as anything other than a varsity athlete growing up, how cool it looked to be out on that field. This is a way that you get more kids involved in athletics. We can have better championships out there. I was up in Manchester watching the Division IV soccer finals. Wonderful complex, different type of complex. But there's no reason when they're moving those things around the state, we can't use that amenity to get more people in the town of Bennington for that day. We're missing a great opportunity. I think a lot of it is communications driven. Quite frankly, your point is absolutely correct. If I were looking at this and saying, wait a minute, if the cost differential here is $700,000 between a grass field and a synthetic turf field, with so much more we can get out of a synthetic turf field. My advice to this committee is don't look, how can we shade this a little bit to make this more palatable on the money side? Do it right, take the time you need, communicate it better, and ask for whatever help you need to help get that message out, because this is a no-brainer project. Makes Bennington better, period.
Can I add?
Go ahead. Yep.
Okay.
I think you need to put all the documents that are available and have been created on the website so that people can look at them and review them. It's hard to gather a good feeling out of just a verbal presentation, which is what the community had. And I would go for your next step. I would put together two proposals, one for a grass field with what is absolutely necessary to do to continue using it, and then another one with what you really want, which includes the artificial grass. And then people can see what they're getting and not getting with both of them.
So I can respond, Ed. I've sent every document that I've submitted to the board, I've given to Katie at central office. So again, I'm not in charge of the website, but I have provided everything.
Yeah, I'm not saying you didn't. I'm just saying when I went looking on the website under MAU documents, I didn't find them.
They're on the sports, they're on the sports website under athletics. All the Spinelli complex information is found there.
Thanks, Ashley. And then I do know what you're saying about the two things. I'm not sure that I think the committee what I was tasked with, I think as the ad hoc committee, is to make a recommendation to the board, and then the board makes a decision, and that's what I've been going. I wasn't here are the two options,
Yeah, I'm not trying to imply that you did it wrong, but you're at point B now, and you've got to change the message direction.
Yeah, I am worried now, honestly, myself, just at the state of Spinelli Field right now. I think we're going to look at putting some money into this field to get it playable, for next soccer season. I mean, I know that my soccer team could not play on it at the end of this year. It was just not, so we're going to be spending some money, budgeted money, I would think, to put into a field that maybe, so again, I think we're doing like little patchwork things going on right now. I just don't want to keep, spending money that is unnecessary for a field that we're going to have to kind of make a big fix to.
When was the last time that field was turned over and aerated?
I don't know that either. I don't know that. I just play on it when it's available and free. Jackie, you had your hand up.
Like after my first year, they started punching it and rolling it. After at the start of my second year, yeah.
Got it. Thank you, Jackie.
Yeah, I'm not a person who goes backwards and says, okay, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? I like to go forward. And I think you need to put your priorities in a row, ducks in a row, whatever, and say, this is what we have available. This is what we don't have available. I know the hospital also puts out this pitch that they have a great field up there, and they wanted a community field. So that means schools can use it. I don't know what's wrong with the one up in Willow Park, that it's not good, huh? But maybe we need to ask the town to change one of the baseball fields into a soccer field, whatever. But I think you need to do a little.
Jackie, but just so, I'm sorry for interrupting, but the kids were devastated to not play at their high school, so I'm just saying, like, for us to play at SVC, they want to play on their high school field. It was very hard for me to sell that to them. So.
I understand that, but we have to make do in certain cases. As for the field at the high school, I think we have to solve problems one by one. I think the drainage problem has been there for a long time. I don't think it just happened this year or 5 years ago. From what I've heard, it's been an ongoing problem for 30 years. So that has to be fixed before anything is fixed. And then at the end of each year, the high school has a certain amount of funds that either roll over to the next school year or whatever. And I'd like to take those funds and put those and dedicate those funds, as well as any gate money, into fixing the field. And then as far as funds that we can ask for, we haven't asked for any funds. I didn't see in your proposal any place where we said we would fund this or we would ask for money for this. You're only asking for the general public. The general public doesn't have money. And the tax situation is like almost, it's unbelievable. Seniors this year are, for the last 10 years, you might not know this because you're not a senior, but for the last 10 years, the average was 1.2% increase in Social Security, whereas the cost of living was over 3%. Now, this year is forecasted for 5.8% inflation. Seniors are finally getting a raise, but that doesn't, counter what they haven't gotten before. I mean, they're just keeping their heads above water. And so half of this town are seniors. And so you wonder why the vote went like that. I can tell you, it was from the seniors. They don't have the money to increase $300 to their tax revenue for the schools. They just don't simply have it. Or do they have the town tax money? Some people have to give up the homes that they've lived in all of their lives so that they can pay their taxes, and they have to go into some quarters that they really don't like. I guess what I'm saying in the short run is we have to make a plan that's step by step. We can't have a grand plan right now. It's not the time to do a $2 million, $3 million, no matter what kind of information you send out. Now, it's interesting in September, when I first heard about this from at the board meeting, you did say it was 6 million. And then in October, you cut it back down to 3.2, I think 3.5. Anyway, and then you said, and this was the big hitter. Then the financial manager said, we're finished paying for all of our other bills and bonds. And so this wouldn't make much of a difference. But what everybody else heard, you heard, oh, good, the fund, we'll have a stable 0% increase. But what a lot of people heard was, if we don't fund this, we'll have a decrease. Hello, so what were they going for? Were they going for your field, or were they going for a decrease in taxes? I've been here now 12 years. When I first came, my sewer rate, and I only pay sewer, was $50 every quarter. Now it's $130. So everything keeps going up, except what comes into me, and you can ask other seniors the same thing. And so when you look at it from those eyes, you have to say, well, isn't there another way besides raising taxes or including this project in taxes? And yes, I know one person who writes well and could probably help you, but I'm not going to put their name out on in public right now. I will send it to you, and I'll send you their address, and you can talk to them privately.
Mike, can I jump in?
Yes, go ahead, Chad.
So for football, I did look at some grants, and USA Football does offer a turf football grant. A couple of contingencies. You have to have financing in place, which means you need a bond approval to even apply. Second, they want to put their logo on the field and restrict it to just football use. So yes, USA Football has programs, but it wouldn't be something that would fit our project. Second, to jump on, Jason talked about, championships and hosting championships. Youth sports. Yes. The St. Johnsbury just put in a turf field up in St. Johnsbury, Vermont at their academy. They're looking to possibly put a proposal to host the Vermont Football State Championship, all 3 games, instead of being held in Rutland, possibly being held in St. Johnsbury. Not to toot our own horn, but playing in that game this year, talking to a lot of friends and family that traveled up there, I said, hey, did you stop in Rutland, try to get, they said every restaurant they went to, they couldn't get in because there was a line out the door. It was such a boon for community because you brought 6 teams in from all over the state. So again, revenue for our school would be tremendous if they could rotate these state championships. That's just one sport. Second thing about the tax I agree, taxes are always going up. Luckily, I think through the work of our school boards and our, again, wonderful financial manager, my taxes went down this year. I got a decrease. And the Commissioner of Taxes released a statement yesterday. I don't know if people saw it, but there is a surplus of they're projecting a surplus of nearly 90 million in the education fund left over from fiscal year 2022. There's a lot of things that impact that number, but the governor and his admin has already said they'd like to see half of that return to the taxpayers, which, there's a lot of things, but the thing I read in the Department of Taxes website, this is a statewide based non-homestead tax rate is forecasted to decrease by 22.7 cents. So that's a 9% education tax decrease. I teach math. I think I'm pretty good with numbers. I can't understand education finance. The formulas, everything that they try to do, I think they make it complicated. So I'm just reading what's on this website. So I think the forecast looks good for taxes. We might see a decrease multiple years in a row.
It might decrease in education, but it will go up in the town.
Yeah.
And that's what happened before, so.
My overall tax bill decreased this past year.
There are, I know, in September also, when this first came about, I first heard about it, there was a team out in Utah, I think, or Colorado, I forget which, that wanted a new playing field. I don't know whether it was turf or what. It was in the desert, so it was probably turf, which makes sense. They didn't have the money. They're a small town like we are. And they put out a GoFundMe, and their turf field only cost, let me see, it was less than $1 million. It was 80,000, I think, or 80,900, whatever. And they got theirs from GoFundMe, and then somebody heard about them and gave them even more money. So I think you have to narrow down your package, and maybe some things are like, if you want the bandstand moved, move it, and ask parents and the townspeople to help you move it, and fix the drainage. You have to fix the drainage anyway, so fix the drainage first. And any money that's left over at the end of the year, let's put it to the drainage.
Why? You gotta blow the field up and fix the field.
You can't do the track before the turf because of all
It's
this.
a huge expense to fix.
Yeah, didn't we look at piecing it out? Wasn't it?
Yeah, piecing it out was gonna
almost
be,
3 times. the
yeah,
cost?
it was ridiculous how much more it's gonna be. Plus, if you do either the turf first or the track first, the other one's gonna be damaged, and you can't really put the turf in without doing the track at the same time. And then just piecing it was ridiculous. And that's how this all started, because Superintendent Colquhoun was like, this piecing together is just gonna be way more expensive than just the project itself. So that's honestly how this all got started.
But Mike, if you remembered in September, October, at both meetings, you told the public that you were going for the moon. And I think that's what they rejected. So let the moon have a little, low rise this time. I don't know if you could keep it maybe at $1 million, $1.5 million, maybe, do that much this year, maybe a little bit more the next year. I don't know. I
hear you, Jackie. And I know, like, the other side is, then we got Leon saying, you got to go for
the
everything.
moon.
So it's a very, as I said, I've heard from so many different people, and everybody's got their own idea as to what needs to happen. And, we just heard from, Jason, who's like, you guys got to go bigger, so everybody has their own thoughts. I do know that we've been talking about it. My question is, like you said, oh, I clicked in September. Like, I mean, I've been doing this for like all of last year as well. We were meeting and kind of giving updates, to the board. So I do question why September was like the spark, point or whatever. But I do know that we were talking about all kinds of different, kind of proposals and ideas. And I always tried to, at a monthly meeting, give everybody an update as to where we're at. Here's what we're thinking. Do we have your support? And we're moving forward. So again, I think the committee, the message, like, obviously was disjointed and not presented, that well. Fran, I know you're there and you haven't had any.
Jason was trying to cut in, and then you kind of cut in. So
I know. Sorry. Go. I'm sorry. Go. I know you're there. You got some things to say.
Well, no, Mike, to say it a little more clearly, because of the messaging you know, I said, what I tried to say is if I had a criticism, the messaging is mixed. I think this is an absolutely perfect project that goes so far beyond making it better for what's there right now. And I won't repeat myself. You know, I don't think you're shooting for, this is what this product costs. We need a new track. We've got an under-regulation. Even if the soccer field were in great shape, it's a bad soccer field. It's too narrow. It's been too narrow since they built it. Since they put in the West Stands in the early 70s, you've had a too narrow soccer field. It's less than regulation. You know, you're not putting in brand new locker rooms and trying to enclose a stadium. This is what a nice but relatively basic synthetic turf field with amenities you would expect to go around it, nice stands, get people out. You know, yes, we all pay taxes. I would like a nicer, it would be a nice, you know, I used to spend every Friday night of my life there at one point in my life. I mean, it was a little rundown 30 years ago. It hasn't gotten any better since. I don't think you're shooting for the moon. I just, you know, make sure you're doing what needs to be done, and I think you are. And I think now you know, how do you know, maybe one way to look at it is how do we defer annual maintenance costs? A lot of these newer fields are selling advertising. You know, those are little things, but regardless of that, something has to be done. And the relatively small increase over a very baseline bat solution is pretty modest. That's all I'm trying to say. I mean, I think you're on the right path. I support it. Keep going, but make sure, my point is, I don't think cutting it solves the problem. Either the project is a good project or not, and saving $500,000 on a 20-year project to cut corners today is bad business, Mike.
Yep.
Sure.
Fran's gonna go, Mike.
Got it. I'm ready for it. I'm ready.
All right, number one, I think it's, what people know, I'm not against the project. I'm against the turf field itself. I'm definitely against this stupid building for $354,000. That's totally asinine. I've said it before, you don't have to spend that kind of money. It's ridiculous. Now, people have told me, a lot of business people here in Bennington, that, you know, we got a concession stand that was put in there for about $45,000. No labor, went around, got the plumbers, electricians and stuff to donate. They were on board with that because of the town pride. And that's how I am. I think we need to do something. I get that. The building, you want a storage building, I told you, you got $100,000. That's all you get. Now you build your storage building. You don't have to heat it. Now, I was told by these people that on the, I forget what you call them, Booster Club, the bathrooms are open here every time there's a game or something in the cafeteria. Use those bathrooms. The rest of the doors are locked, so I don't want to see us putting more bathrooms over here. And another person had said, well, if you want to heat that building, why can't you come off where the other boiler is over here with a big stack? And I said, you know something? Stay away from that stuff. All you're doing is you're going to cost more energy, and for something else to go wrong that we got to keep updated, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, you got a lady calling Lori, I think was her name. Now, this project was almost $6 million, and I'm going to explain to you why it was. $3.5 million. And I've got the papers with me, and I went over it with the business manager at central office. The life cycle cost is $1,960,000. You're going to spread that out over 10 years. That's why it's almost $6 million. I don't know if that explains it to her, if she's still with us or not. But that gets thrown into your budget. So this stuff ain't free. And I think that was a turnoff for some people. Now, I've been talking to a lot of people. I've been going to a lot of schools. And by the way, this year has been unique for people as far as the fields and every field. I've been to a lot of schools around here. Hoosick Falls Central is one of them. They got 10 times the field we do. And I'm walking on their field and it's slushy. This field's slushy. The farmers didn't cut my fields because it's so goddamn wet that it's nothing you can do with it. So I said, don't bother cutting. But for the most part, I can get on board with, I want to see those two bids here, not bids, but I want to see the grass one and I want to see the turf one. There are places where you can buy this stuff cheaper than, and in fact, I bought a sample from the Burden field with the sand and the rubber that's goes into that, how they do that. And I'll leave that here with Ashley. Okay, you have them anyway?
We have the natural one and we have. the-
Oh, okay, all right, good. But, you know, now I spent yesterday over here, I spent about an hour over here just looking at things. And I see the drainage underneath the new the visitor bleachers. And I have to tell you, a lot of these other schools I've been to, they haven't got squat for bleachers. Hoosick Falls Central's got about 4 lengths, about 25 feet long, and that's it. And none of these other schools I've been going to, including Cambridge, they don't have crow's nest either. I'm not willing to, we're trying to impress, but this is my own opinion. I don't think we need to have crow's nest or anything. It probably is small as it is, but if, you know, a lot of schools have scaffolding and they have a ladder on it and they have a little box up there. If they want to get in there and take the pictures and all that, that's fine. They can do that, but I'm not going to spend $354,000 so they can take nice pictures. We have.
Franny, can I ask you, what if we, and this was a discussion that we had, you know, kind of post, I think it was Ashley and I were talking, what if the building is like kind of removed from the project? I know that the red building right now has to be, you know, they're thinking of like taking it down or whatever. And it's kind of,
It has not been condemned. I just want to make sure.
no, I didn't use that word. I just said it has to be taken down.
Say like that, and it's not true. That makes me furious when people do that. But anyway,
Right.
that's neither here nor there.
So
I think
if that gets pulled out of the project, and then, you know, basically we just look at, you know, the track and the field and kind of the bits that kind of go with that. Not saying that almost similar to what happened with the bleachers. You know, the bleachers were dealt with separately, you know, and it kind of can be controlled within maybe current, you know, budgeting or like maintenance funds or whatever to kind of look at, you know, the building, and it could be, you know, lower costs or whatever. I don't know. That was something that Ashley and I were talking about as we're trying to like figure out how we move forward. You know, the building to me is important for the overall, like, you know, kind of aesthetic, also for the storage and the project itself. But I mean, to me, I'm more into like the surface of the field and the in the track itself. That's what, you know, that's what
it's going to take to make this field a regulation size. That's what I was trying to figure out. And where does the track have to go? Does it have to be on the other side of those bleachers?
No. So the track stays. The track itself, like if you go up to Rutland High School, their field is inside of their track.
Okay.
Right now, our field width is essentially like 59, 60 yards. I want to try to get it to about, you know, 70 yards in width. So if we move those bleachers outside of the track on the away side, we can get close to 70 yards in width, you know, inside the track. So the track isn't the shell of the track is what it is. It's not moving.
Okay, but we still need to do the track over. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
So that has to be
That
done
has to
over
be done.
again.
There's 4 sinkholes, but the surface itself hasn't been resurfaced since before I was in high school. So that's been a long time. So that whole, the track is it's almost non-negotiable at this point because it absolutely has to be done. It's a safety issue. There's too many sinkholes. The surface is terrible. Even the kids with the best spikes, like track spikes, they can't get grip on that track.
But it's not moving. It has to be redone. But it's essentially staying as it is, just with a resurface like kind of bit, right, Ashley?
Yeah. The skeleton essentially would stay. It's just we're gonna obviously get rid of the sinkholes, and we're obviously gonna put a new surface on there.
Now, he also said, Mike, there's parking on the other end of the main.
Yeah. I mean, to me, this is my, like, and this is what I want to find out, like, obviously I would love for everybody on the board to be in favor. I think it hurts a project if members of the board are not in favor of a project. And again, I can't, guarantee that everybody's going to be in favor, but I do want to hear from those that were voting against and saying, hey, how could we, like one of the things, and I know, Fran, you're, fiscally very, focused in, like, to me, like having a grass field redone for close to $500,000 versus a turf for $1 million, like, to me, that extra $500,000 for the amount of games and usage you get, like, I mean, I'll say it to everybody publicly, I would rather play soccer on a beautiful grass field. I would rather play soccer on but in Vermont, like and I said, I use this quote, John O'Keefe, who runs, like, is the manager up in Manchester and kind of runs Applejack. He says the best grass fields in Vermont are the ones that nobody uses. That's why if you don't use it, it's going to stay really nice. But we want to use it all the time. We want the PE kids to use it. We want, like classes to use it. We want the summer. We want kids to come, in the fall and just like play flag football on it, do all kinds of stuff. That's what we're hoping. We don't want to have like it locked off and nobody able to use it. So that was our motivation for looking at the artificial surface, really get kids using it. So, Dave, you had your hand up.
Is he the one that's putting the one in? They're going to come from all over the country to play soccer tournaments in Manchester? Okay.
Yes, yeah.
And they're going to use grass. They're not going to use turf.
It's a grass field that is only used for games. There's no practices. They only use it for games, and they only use it very limited amount of time.
Mike, we're pushing an hour here.
Yeah, we're gonna wrap. Dave had his hand up for a while, and then we'll try to get it.
Two things. One, the lights have to stay on this project, I believe, and we haven't mentioned them too much. And also, Fran, on bathrooms, the baseball people, if they want to use a bathroom, they have to go into the high school, which is not a good situation. That's why we need the bathrooms more than just on the over on the home side. Those are not open in the spring, so we do need to have some bathrooms somewhere.
Well, let me look at that then. But it's still, there's got to be a better way to do some stuff. Now, we got the bathrooms. I've heard from Ashley on it. It's kind of tough to use the bathrooms in the concession stand. But I don't know. Maybe we gotta cut out something. I know people don't like the word cut out. Well, you're going to cut something out if you want this thing to pass. And I think that you don't do anything this year coming. I think we get our ducks in a row and we look at this stuff and we can do something the following year. But I have to tell you, with the inflation and the stuff that's a tax on everybody, it's just, I know what administration said. We've got to wait up the administration now, but it is what it is. And go from there.
I do think, and we'll wrap up soon, but I do think that nothing is going to get done, this year. Like my thought process, like even if and I know some people are against like throwing it back out to like a vote in March, that doesn't mean we're going to break ground. Like, to me, you wouldn't like start working on this till the following March. Like, it would take a while to kind of get going on it. So
Say, they don't want to see anything in the March ballot.
no, I know that's what you said. I just know that if we keep putting it off, it's now 2 years down the road. Like, the whole project isn't going to, like, it was going to be a rush if it passed in November to get it going this spring, this summer. It's not going to happen, for this spring, this summer, this fall. Like, I know that, so like just getting a vote and getting a read, I don't know is necessarily the worst thing, but we're not going to be spending the money. The money's on it in terms of like this year, like, that's again something that the committee can kind of like think of and decide.
Like,
We're gonna,
one more quick thing.
go ahead, Ashley. Yep.
Let me just offer out to you guys. I know I have a connection with the Clark Company out of Delhi. They built the St. Johnsbury turf field. So they also build grass fields. So they're a great source to get your comparison costs that everyone's asking for. So it's Clark Company out of Delhi, New York, and I can talk to you later. You can come talk to me. The other thing about costs and everything in this taxes, I agree that the cost of this project is over budget. And I think if anybody knows me, I just redid the Babe Ruth baseball field myself. I blew it up. I totally resurfaced it at my own nickel, my own skill level, with my own equipment and one other guy. We spent $10,000. I spent $10,000 to do the field over. That includes 94 yards of topsoil, 28 yards of sand, 13 pallets of sod, laid it out, did it up. All we have to do is get the mix in for the spring. My point is, this project can be done at a lot less of a cost, and there are people around who will do it. I mean, you could come talk to me. I'm sure I could find the people to get this project done, probably at half the cost. As far as Rand's concerned about the shed, I totally agree. That's ridiculous money for something like that. The boys here at the school can help with that. There's other contractors that I will find that can do it for a lot less, almost like a donation, much like what I've done for, over a decade here, So those are my points. Come talk to me if you want me to help out with it.
Thank you, Pete. We got one more. Jackie, your hand is up, and then we'll wrap up, I think.
Well, I two questions. How much did it cost for the MSK survey and appraisal?
I don't know.
I don't have that number either, Jackie.
Well, how much did it cost for the ballot vote?
155, 225.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
155, 225 for MSK engineering.
1,000, right?
Excuse me?
Yes, 1,000 is correct.
Yes.
155,000.
Yeah.
And the ballot vote was probably $600 to $800, correct?
I think it's more than that. I mean,
Uh-huh.
2,500.
yeah, I'm assuming Cassie didn't volunteer her day. I know there were some volunteers there, but I'm thinking the printing alone was that much.
Yeah.
So, if you go ahead and put another vote in March, I mean, we're talking about more money, and I don't think the vote will change in March.
I don't think you're talking about doing that, Jackie.
Oh, good.
No.
Good.
That's what Mike just said.
Yes,
I said I don't know. I said I don't know. It's going to be the committee's kind of going to talk, but I do know that like nothing is going to happen like as far as this year goes, as far as this project. Like, even when we get an okay, it's going to be, months, years away if that ever happens. So.
Well, I really like what Pete and Fran said, and I think they should be at all your meetings.
I think what we need to do is find somebody with some big pockets and give us an endowment.
Yes, Yes,
We get the money that Bird Burton gets. And
yeah,
in a couple of years, they got 28 million this past year.
correct.
And the field that they have, the turf field, didn't come out of any of that money either. That was
Right.
someone else that gave them that field.
We just can't compete with that. We're not at that level.
Does anybody have anything final? I've heard a lot. I'll summarize in an email. Just kind of where we're at, and then committee members. I'll just after hearing from everybody today, I'd want your guys' next steps going forward, and we don't have to air them publicly, but I'm going to report back to the board as to what the committee has decided in terms of direction and next steps going forward. So, does anybody have anything final before we sign off?
I think one of the things that should have been done up front was to call the Natural Resource Conservation Service and ask them to send a soil scientist down here to take a look at the field and tell us what exactly is the drainage problem and how would they fix it. That would be a free service that we're entitled to. And it'd be better than hiring an engineer and paying $20,000 to hear that you got to spend $300,000 to repair it. And there's probably other sources of free help and advice.
I think that's something you could bring up to Tony, maybe, or I don't know anything about that. So it would be a Tony, question or comment at the next meeting.
Okay.
All right. Thank you all. Have a good rest of the night. Appreciate your input, and we'll be in touch.
Call my office.
Yes.